I feel that dehydrated eggs get a bad rap. If you cook them right and gussy them up a little bit, I think they make a really good hot breakfast.
This is an American Southwest-inspired breakfast consisting of scrambled eggs made with cilantro and garlic.
Join me as I put this morning meal together on this week's episode of Making a Mess with the Yankee Camper.
Cilantro and garlic scrambled eggs. So the first thing we'll need is 6 tablespoons of egg crystals, a half a teaspoon of butter flakes, a quarter of a teaspoon of cilantro, an eighth of a teaspoon of garlic powder, a dash of black pepper, and I'm using dried jalapeno flakes, or you can use crushed red peppers. That works. The jalapeno gives it a little bit more zest and a little bit different flavor. I'm also going to include a small packet of Parmesan cheese and 2 packets of mild taco sauce. In addition, I'll need 1 to 1.5 tablespoons of vegetable shortening. Combine those ingredients into a paper bag, which I've marked cilantro and garlic scrambled eggs. So we'll first put in the vegetable shortening, we'll put in the egg mixture, the 2 packets of taco sauce, and the Parmesan cheese. I'll seal that up, put that aside so that I'm ready for breakfast. And as a protein, I'm going to have pre-cooked bacon along with my scrambled eggs. I'll see you out at the campsite.
It all started with pepper sass. The prep and cooking segments were videoed at the White Mountain National Forest in the shadow of Mount Washington. I spent some time while there at the world's first mountain climbing cog railway. Designed by Sylvester Marsh, it opened in 1869 as the area saw a rise in tourism. Just 8 years before, a carriage road had been built to carry visitors to the summit of New England's highest peak, where 2 hotels could accommodate guests wishing to remain overnight. Located 6 miles in from Route 202 near Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, on a windy back road, the base area has plenty of parking and quite a bit to see. If you've never been, this is a must-do for those visiting the area. At the base is a small museum where you can learn about the history of the railroad and tourism of the area in general. Here you can learn what all the valves do to make the steam engine run, and what it took to get train passengers to the top of Mount Washington in the middle of the 19th century. There's also the Pepper Sass restaurant, serving food cafeteria style, with views overlooking the platforms so you can watch for your train as it's pulling into the station. Plus, near the ticket stand is a very fine gift shop offering opportunity to purchase mementos as a keepsake of your trip aboard the railway to the moon. The restaurant is named to honor the first steam engine to make the ascent, which earned the nickname Old Pepper Sass because the boiler had a design reminiscent of a pepper sauce bottle. This engine can be seen near the platform at the station. The biodiesel engines run up to the summit in about 45 minutes, but there is a steam engine option that can take about an hour. Either way, this is a 3-hour round trip, leaving around 1 hour to explore the summit. The season is from late April to mid-October to get to the peak, but the train runs every day all year long, just not going all the way to the top in the colder weather. The price runs from just over $50 for a 1 hour round trip in the winter to as much as $95 to the summit in the summer. Check their website for all the information, weather, advanced ticket purchases, and history. This is one of my highly recommended must-dos if you come to New England. Yes, you can drive to the summit on the Mount Washington Auto Road, and I've done this both by car and on my motorcycle. This is basically the same road that was built for those carriages back in the 1860s. Actually, the first auto to climb the mountain was a steam car designed by the Stanley brothers. But those are stories for another time. If you're only going to get one chance to be atop Mount Washington, take the railroad. You'll never regret it. Now, you know. Let's get back to Barnes Field and start making breakfast.
It's a beautiful morning here at the campsite, and I'm going to make myself some breakfast of cilantro and garlic scrambled eggs. First thing I'll need to do is take out the ingredients that we packed in our bag. We've got some grated Parmesan cheese, our egg mixture, some vegetable shortening, and 2 packets of taco sauce. Set those aside and put this bag aside. We'll want to mix these egg crystals into some water, so we're going to measure out a half a cup of just plain water. Pour those egg mixture right into the water. And scramble that up. I'm going to finish scrambling these eggs, and I'll be right back. I've finished scrambling the eggs. I'm just going to set those aside for right now. Next, I'm going to take my fry pan from my mess kit, and I'm going to measure out the vegetable shortening. I don't need a lot. Put the rest aside for now. Light the stove, and I'm going to put this fry pan on and let that vegetable shortening start to melt. This doesn't require a very high heat. So once that starts to melt, turn it down. Nice and low, you don't want to burn the eggs. Next, I'm going to open my grated cheese. I'm going to pour that into the egg mixture. And stir that in as well. Be sure to keep an eye on your shortening. You can see that's starting to smoke. I'm going to take that off for right now. Make sure that heat's still going.
You can see those eggs have started to set up, but before we cook them, let me tell you about the 2 Arthur Demoulases. You may have noticed that the bacon is from Market Basket, where you get more for your dollar. If you live in New England, you're probably familiar with the grocery chain. If you grew up north of Boston, around Lowell, you likely remember Demoulas supermarkets. Other grocery stores have been around, but these stores are an institution with a loyal following. In the first part of the 20th century, Athanasios Demoulas, also known as Arthur, arrived at Ellis Island from Greece after the Greco-Turkish War of 1897 and settled in Lowell, Massachusetts. He married a girl he knew from the old country and, around 1917, opened a small market in the area known as the Acre. They bought a house in nearby Dracut and started a family, eventually having 6 children, including George and Mike, who bought the business from their parents in the 1950s. By the start of the 1970s, the single market had grown to 15 supermarkets. In the early 70s, we had a seasonal site for our pop up camper in southern New Hampshire. Going there always meant a stop at Granite State Potato Chips and the Demoulas Supermarket in Salem, New Hampshire. In the summer of '75, a new store near Rockingham Park opened first as Demoulas, then as Market Basket, even though they sold Demoulas brand items. And there was a store less than half a mile down the road. At 12 years old, I remember thinking that didn't make any sense, but my mom said it had something to do with the owner's family and left it at that. I got the impression this was odd, but otherwise, I didn't really think much about it. In 1958, the immigrant Arthur Demoulas died. Second generation, George and Mike, ran and grew both the company and their families. As a Greek tradition, the brothers each named sons after their father, Athanasius, and both adopted the American version, Arthur. Telemachus, or Mike, chose his own name for his firstborn son's middle name. George chose Stephen as his second son's middle name. The brothers continued to expand the grocery chain, typically buying the property and building out a plaza with the supermarket as the anchor store. Then, in 1971, George died while vacationing in Greece, leaving Mike alone at the helm of the chain bearing his family's name. However, other family members, including George's widow, still had seats on the board of directors. In 1975, Mike created Market Basket, apparently to skirt a law on how many beer and wine licenses a single chain could hold. He also brought his son Arthur T. on board to learn the ropes, but things were turning darker. I don't like meddling in other families' affairs, but this one had a personal impact. Throughout the 80s and 90s, Market Basket continued to grow. Mike Demoulas had set up the newer chain with only his family controlling the business, while the rest of the family continued with the Demoulas stores. Mud was slung on both sides, but Arthur T. continued to advance his position in the company from starting just after high school graduation to vice president in 1989. 10 years later, after a legal battle spurred on by George's son Arthur S., the court system allowed him to join the board of directors and required Arthur T. to step down. However, AT did retain his position on the board. Mike Demoulas passed away in 2003, but the legal battle continued in what has been called the most expensive and longest lawsuit in Massachusetts history. The widow of George's other son sided with AT against AS on business decisions, and in 2008, Arthur T. Demoulas was named president and CEO of the corporation. By 2011, all Demoulas stores had been revamped and renamed Market Basket. The court also decided that the Market Basket chain needed to be moved under the control of the Demoulas Market Basket Board of Directors. I'd like to note that Arthur T. was well known throughout the grocery stores. Taking a hands-on approach, he made an effort to learn employees' names, their families, check on them when there were illnesses, and believed in profit sharing. He was old school, avoiding gimmicks like store cards and self-checkout lanes, believing that customer service required face-to-face interactions with cashiers. He worked diligently to provide customers with more for your dollar. In 2014, Raphael Evans, George's deceased son's widow, switched sides, and Arthur S. fired Arthur T. In an unprecedented event, the community backed RDT and started to boycott their beloved grocery chain.
Demoulas earlier urged workers to get back to the job until the warring cousins can work things out.
While I was driving to work past the headquarters, the peaceful protests continued through the summer of 2014, me beeping my horn to show support. Store shelves went unfilled by striking workers for customers that refused to shop there. By August, Arthur S. and his family had decided to sell their shares to Arthur T. and his family, and I and the other loyal customers resumed shopping at Market Basket. In the spring of 2025, the board of directors, now controlled by Arthur T.'s sisters, suspended him for planning a work stoppage in retaliation for requests from the board for basic collaboration and oversight. Arthur T. denied the allegations, calling them a farcical cover for a hostile takeover. On September 10th, 2025, Arthur T. was fired again. He followed on October 1st by filing a lawsuit against Demoulas and the board in the Delaware Court of Chancery, seeking his reinstatement as CEO. This was the first time since Market Basket had opened that a Demoulas was no longer at the helm. While the loyal fans wait to see how all of this falls out, it's still recognized throughout the region as where you can go and get more for your dollar. Now you know. I preheated my bacon and put it in an aluminum foil packet. So let's head back to the campsite and I'll finish making my breakfast of cilantro and garlic scrambled eggs.
That's all well and hot. I'm just going to add those scrambled eggs right into the pan. Place the cup aside using my spatula. Just let those eggs start to form. While I let those eggs start to form up, I'm going to take my plate from my mess kit and get that ready. I'll also open my 2 packets of taco sauce. The scrambled eggs don't take very long. If they start to stick to the bottom, turn the heat down. You can see those eggs have started to form small peaks. Continue to cook them around until they're completely done. Those eggs are just about done. Still a little wet. Flip them over, let them heat through. While those finish cooking, I took some of my pre-cooked bacon. I cooked that off earlier. I'm just going to put that in my plate. Give these eggs one final flip. Turn the stove off. Plate up these eggs as well. Grab my pot holder, put the pan aside. Take my taco sauce. Add that over my eggs. There is cilantro and garlic scrambled eggs with a little bit of bacon on the side. I'm going to eat my breakfast and then I'll clean up my mess. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel where I bring out new videos every week about camping, cooking in a mess kit, and some of the gear that I use. Also, consider sharing it on your social media to help the people you know become aware of my channel. Thank you for watching.